What is going on, everyone? My name is Mark Reel Jr., the Fathers Rights Attorney, and you are watching another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook. And on today's episode, we have, I guess you could call it a very special episode. I am flying solo today, answering one of the most common questions we get in our DMs and our comments all over social media. And that comment is, what is a 3111 evaluation and how do I successfully navigate through that process? So we'll go ahead and I want to just dive right in today and talk about how men and fathers can successfully navigate the 3111 evaluation process. So we'll start out with the very basics of it. So a 3111 evaluation is an evaluation ordered under Family Code Section 3111. And essentially, this portion of the Family Code allows the judge to appoint usually a healthcare professional, mental health professional. You have a psychologist, psychiatrist, marriage and family counselor, to appoint them to do an evaluation of the custody situation. And usually 3111 evaluations are limited to exclusively the custody arrangement. So that's what a 3111 evaluation is. That's how it comes to be. We're seeing these, they're becoming more and more common, whether the parties agree to them or if there's disagreement when it comes to custody and the judge simply orders them. But they're becoming a very, very common tool. Now, on one hand, I really like them because a judge has hundreds of cases on their docket, while a custody evaluator may be doing a dozen custody evaluations at any one time. So it allows someone to really dig in. What I don't like is, my general rule of thumb is I don't like involving third parties into court cases. So I don't want to bring a third party into a case unless I have to. But there are some situations where, for the father, a 3111 evaluation really makes sense. Another common situation we see is with move-away cases. A lot of times prior to a move-away trial, they will request a 3111 evaluation to get more information about the parents and what they're doing. So what I want to do now is I want to walk through really kind of the basic steps that all evaluators follow in these cases. So typically, once an evaluator is selected, usually it's under a process of one side picks X number of evaluators from the list and the other side gets to pick the one. Once you get started, usually the first step, and what can be a crucial step in painting the picture, is providing documents to the individual who's conducting the evaluation. So this may be anything from court pleadings to emails to talking parents communication. And this is really the first opportunity a party has to start to paint the picture of what's going on in their case. Now, we don't want to lie, we never want to attempt to mislead, but making sure that we provide the relevant documents and we provide them in a way that ensures that the evaluator fully reads them and understands them can be key. So, for example, if we have a report from the child's therapist that is really, really positive and it's very recent and it's our best piece of evidence, well, that may be the document I want to put on top. I want to organize my documents to make the biggest impact possible. The worst thing you can do, because it's going to cost you more money, because it's going to take the evaluator's time, and your documents are going to have less impact, is when you just throw the evaluator hundreds of pages of documents, thousands of pages of messages, with no organization, no thought going into it. This is really the start of your case, the start of your evaluation, where you're going to be able to paint the picture as to what is going on. So usually an evaluator will take some time. It could be anything from days to weeks to even months to review all the documents in the case, get an understanding of what the current court orders are, what's happened in the case, any ongoing issues. And usually what we see after that is they will begin conducting interviews. And usually they start with the parties. And this can be a crucial piece to this individual judging the credibility of what you say if you actually really want what you're asking for. So usually most evaluators I've seen, the parties involved in the case, they will spend 2, 3, maybe even more hours with each individual separately, talking them through all the issues they identified in the documents. This will be your opportunity to verbalize and talk through in detail everything that's going on in your individual case. This is also a really good opportunity if you've made mistakes in your case, if you've had challenges that maybe you wish you would have attacked differently. This is your opportunity to show that you're growing and changing. One of my favorite pieces of advice for individuals who are getting ready to get interviewed in these custody evaluations is we talk about the negative facts in their case, the negative issues. Maybe you haven't seen the children in a period of time. Maybe you were found to have perpetuated domestic violence. Maybe you've made mistakes. You got arrested for DUI. Any number of things that occur that are negative. And we don't want to do is run away from those issues. And I call it using the 8 Mile method. And I call it that because in the final rap battle, Eminem in his movie 8 Mile, what he does is when he starts, he says all the negative things. He acknowledges all the negative things that the other side is going to say. And he accepts those. And then he's going to show how he's changed. So in an instance where an individual will say has been arrested, they got a DUI, we'll say during the custody case. It's not something you want to run away from, but it's something you want to acknowledge, take ownership of, and then use it to explain and show how you've grown, how you've improved, how you've gotten better since that incident. And it can really show a great deal of accountability, which I think a lot of these evaluators see missing from both sides. You can show that you're accountable, that you're stand up, that you're going to be honest, that you're going to address tough issues. And if you're able to say, hey, you know what? I made that mistake and here's what I learned, and I'm not that same person anymore. It can be really, really powerful and build a great deal of credibility. So usually once the interviews with the parties are conducted, they will conduct a pretty thorough collateral contact interview process. Now, some evaluators require collateral contacts or the parties to write out all the information they think is relevant the collateral contact has, and the evaluator will only call the ones that are relevant. While others, you may give a list of 8, 10, 12, 15 collateral contacts. This could be teachers, doctors, family members, anyone and everyone, and they will call and have a conversation with them about the situation and about what they've observed. This can be really powerful, especially in situations where you've been doing the right thing. You may have neutral third parties, previous visit supervisors, therapists, mediators, anything and everything that will be able to come in and say, this guy is doing what they're supposed to do. This guy is trying, and she's not so much. So we always want to be thorough with our collateral contacts, and we usually want to reach out and give them warning of like, hey, we've given your name as a collateral contact. Here's what's going on, and encourage them and talk and be candid and tell the truth. Those are really kind of the 3 main components. Depending on the situation, you probably also are going to have an observation where the evaluator wants to observe your interactions with the kids. This is usually situations where the kids are much younger. As they get older, this may be less. Usually the therapist is going to be able to talk to the kids. If you have a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old, the therapist may be able to just talk to the kids and see how they're feeling, see what they want, and get an idea of the relationship. While when you have younger kids who maybe haven't fully developed language skills, the evaluator is probably going to want to see you interacting, playing, doing activities with the kids. That's kind of the 4 main components you see. There's going to be the providing of documents. There's going to be yours and your co-parents' interviews. There's going to be collateral contacts. And then there's usually going to be some sort of observation, something along those lines. Now, one of the common questions and one of the, biggest points of confusion usually when it comes to family courts is we're talking today specifically about 3111 evaluations. Well, under Evidence Code 730, the same exact thing can be done. So sometimes you'll hear them called 730 evaluations, sometimes it's 3111 evaluations. When you hear 3111 evaluation, that is specific to child custody. It is Family Code Section 3111. Now, if you hear 730 evaluation, that doesn't mean it's exclusively child custody because it's Evidence Code Section 730. A 730 evaluator can be ordered to evaluate a business, to review documents, to do any number of things and report back to the courts. So when you're talking custody, you may hear 730 and 3111 evaluations used interchangeably. And for the most part, they are the same thing when it comes to child custody. The difference is that 3111 evaluations are exclusively child custody, and a 730 evaluator can be appointed to do any number of things, whether it be appraising assets, looking into a business, finances, any number of things that the judge may want a neutral third opinion from in regards to what's going on. So I hope you guys found in this episode informational, informative, maybe a little bit entertaining. I am Mark Real Jr., and we will see all of you guys next week on another episode of the Fathers Rights Playbook.